Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our workshop, technical workshop number 6. Today we have the first talk in gas, and it's called Assessment. It's titled Assessment of Gas Prospectivity in Colombia Onshore Basins with Hydrocarbon Commercial Production, and it's going to be given by the UPTC University. Okay. But before starting our talks, let me give you some news. We just repeat again that we have financial support to buy data in frontier areas for research groups and companies. Evaluation results have to be presented to the industry in the ANH technical workshops. Applications must be submitted to the Colombian Geological Survey, Pedro Rangel. And we have a second announcement as well. Last year, students or professionals graduated recently could be find thesis programs and or projects to develop plus financial support. And that is starting third quarter 2022. Please contact Diana Rua in MinCiencias. Before starting our gas talk, today I'm going to take advantage, and Daniela at the end as well, of giving you some updating of the progress of the Pacific project that is planned to be done during from 2022 to 2025. And here we have listed more than 20 activities that are going to be done during those years. Geological mapping by the Geological Survey, PGS, PGA, and CP by the Universidad Tecnológica del Chocó. We will drill 3 wells there. I'm going to show you the location of them at 7,500 feet, 800 feet, 8,500 feet, and 12,000 feet in the different parts of the Pacific coast. We are progressing with gravimetric and magnetometric evaluations. We are going to collect piston cores and heat flow there by the Mar. We are reprocessing all the seismic, more than 700 kilometers of 2D, and it is going to be done by PGS. We are progressing in evaluation, prospective fairway plays in Atrato and the Pacific offshore by the National University. We are doing lab work and characterizing the rocks on the surface by the Universidad de Caldas, and we will acquire around 600 kilometers of 2D, and that is going to be done by in territory. I'm going to invite all of you to visit the Transparency Center that is going to be organized by the ANH, and you are going to see what is the progress of the Pacific effort in the country. Okay, this is just giving you an idea of the geological mapping that is carried out by the Colombian Geological Survey in 3 phases, 2022, 2023, 2024, and that the progress today is 15%. That is the location of the 3 wells that are going to be drilled there in the central part, close to the Quito area. Tado well, it's going to be drilled this year. El Morro in the Tumaco Bay is going to be drilled in 2023. And Curvarado in the north part of the basin is going to be drilled in 2024. The progress today is around 5%, and we will keep you informed about the progress of this work. These are the geologic, the social and environmental evaluations, as well as the consulta previa for each one, for Tado, Curvarado, and Morro, and also for the seismic. Is progressing, and we are now reporting 10% of progress. We are going to acquire piston cores, as I mentioned, and measures of heat flow there in the Pacific Ocean, and that is going to be started in June. Or work with the National University in prospective fairway evaluations in the Atrato and Pacific offshore is progressing, 15% of progress at this time. The reprocessing of the seismic by PGS will start soon. And the potential fields, gravimetry and magnetometry done by the Universidad Nacional to identify the geometry of the basement there is progressing. We have today 15% of progress. The Universidad de Caldas is progressing with the characterization of the rocks on surface, and it has 5% of progress, and we are planning to acquire 600 kilometers of seismic 2D. 2D seismic, and we are going to have to start this project in 2023. Okay, and don't forget that we have the Transparency Center here, and I will let you know the specific website where you can see the data acquired previously and the one acquired in the following months. Well, today we have the pleasure to start what we have called the Gas Transition Fuel Oil in Colombia talks. And the plan is to give you a talk on gas one talk every month. So this is the list of the talks that we're going to have. Today we have the assessment of gas prospectivity in Colombia onshore basins with hydrocarbon commercial production done by the UPTC. In April 8th, please keep that date in mind. We will have again the UPTC University presenting value chain, legal framework, and geopolitics of the natural gas business in Colombia. On May 6th, we will have the American company ION join, which is a seismic multi-client company, talking about the offshore Colombian highlights of prospective margin segment using newly reprocessed 2D seismic data. That's extremely important. That group has done an interesting work using 3D and 2D in the Caribbean basin, and you are going to see those prospective areas that they have visualized for us. And in June 13, we will have a research group that is working for MinCiencias, and obviously financially supported by the ANH, and we are going to have the talk titled Geological Habitat, Prospectivity, Social, Environmental, and Economic Sustainability of Wet Gas, LPG, in Colombia as an energy transition fuel. I really encourage the group to attend those talks on gas, because as you know, that is our transition product, and we have to be on top of that. Okay, so that was the list of the gas, one talk every month. And however, in March, we keep progressing with our talks. And on March 18, in 1 week time, we will have the geological survey talking about the new finding on petroleum exploration in the Paleozoic of the Llanos Basin. So, you know, we have they have done a lot of work, they have a lot of progress to show us where the potential gas and oil could be found on those rocks in the Llanos Basin in Colombia. And in the last talk on March 25th is going to be given by the ANH. We will show to you our evaluation of the seismic program acquired by the agency in the Arjona area, Lower Magdalena Basin, as well as we are going to talk about our findings in a very interesting area to the south of the Llanos Basin, the so-called Rio Ariari Basin. So we will have heavy oil and gas prospectivity there. So we will have the pleasure to show to you that the last Friday of March. Well, we have now, as I mentioned, we have today the UPTC talking about the assessment of the gas in Colombia. And this is just a briefing. They are going to show us more than 22 Playfair ways prospectivity areas for gas. That is something that, in my opinion, has not been done in Colombia. This is the first time that this kind of compilation and evaluation is done. And just some briefing about next talk next week. New finding of petroleum exploration Paleozoic in the Llanos. They are going to show us where the Paleozoic is present in the Llanos and at what specific ages. And finally, I would like to introduce our speakers today. We have the pleasure to have with us Clarita Escobar, exploration and production geologist with more than 25 years of experience, qualified professional conducting evaluation of conventional and unconventional projects with wide experience as project manager working for companies such as Ocol, Triton, Nexen, Chinook, She is currently professor of petroleum geology for the Universidad EIA, and recently has been working as independent consultant with the UPTC for projects for the ANH. Areas of expertise: basin evaluation, petroleum system modeling, resource and risk assessment, production geologies, and field operations. We have also the pleasure to have Cesar Mora, geologist, master science in petroleum systems, and 34 years of experience in petroleum exploration projects, expertise in petroleum geochemistry, petroleum system modeling, and yet to find assessments. Director and interpreter in projects in companies such as Ecopetrol, Cipetrol, GEMS, and Cuenca. He is currently professor of petroleum geochemistry and petroleum system modeling in different Colombian universities. Welcome, Clarita and Cesar. Clarita.
Okay. Thank you, Miguel. Okay, let's start sharing the presentation. Okay, let's edit this one. Okay, good morning to everybody, and thanks, Miguel, and thanks to the ANH for inviting us to present the result of this project. And basically, okay, let me see what is going on here. Give me a second. Well, first, as I said before to start, I want to thank you all the interdisciplinary team that participate in this project, but also I don't want to miss the opportunity to recognize the job done by Professor Carlos Julio Rodriguez, who was the supervisor of this project and other projects conducted for the ANH. That he passed away closing this project. The only thing that we have to say now is thank you and rest in peace to our colleague. Just beginning this presentation, this project have two different objectives. The first was to basically evaluate and quantify the potential volume of gas in the onshore basin that lead us to generate exploration scenarios. But also the second part of the second objective was focused on conducting a detailed analysis of the value chain, legal framework, and to understand the geopolitics of the natural gas business in Colombia. As Miguel mentioned before, this presentation will be, the talk of this part will be done on April 8th in the same scenario. Just for today, we are going to an introduction to see from reserves to production. Then I'm going to go through the regional geological setting and reservoir framework for the different onshore basins that were analyzed. And Cesar Mora will go through all the prospectivity going from the petroleum system modeling, the Playfair analysis, and the yet to find, closing with the conclusion basically. As Miguel said, I think this sentence or this statement for Ministry of Mine really summarized pretty well two important or two key elements nowadays. Natural gas is an essential service for country because today 8 out of 10 families or homes use it daily, and also because it's the fuel of the energy transition. That is why it's so important to guarantee the supplies of the internal gas demand by adding new reserves. So this is why we are doing today this presentation. So starting with the reserves, basically closing year 2020, Colombia was ranging between, from proven to possible reserve, between 3,000 to 4,000 BCF. If we see this depletion forecast curve, basically what we see is the 1P, 2P, and 3P reserve will be depleted by year 2036. And if we see or we compare the 1P reserves against the gas that is being consumed every year, the relation is 7.7 years. Then there are some facts that are important to mention. The first is there are a growing demand in country. The second is that each year country must replace near to 360, 380 BCF of 1P reserve for not decreasing this relation or the year that we have the gas. And third, basically during last year 2020, we only replaced 44% of the annual production. So what is the conclusion here is if supply does not increase, there will be an unsatisfied demand. So what to do from local sources? Basically, we need to explore to find more reserves, or we need to start to import gas to supply the requirement from the country. Talking about the current gas production, this is for the last 10 years production from 2010 to 2020, and basically gas from 2020 was, we produced something like 700 million cubic feet. 2020, as all of us knows, it was not a typical year because we have the pandemic that affect all the production and all the activities in country and globally. And basically we have a reduction in production of 10%. If we compare with the previous year, the reduction was nearly 4%. And if we added to the production from year to 2021, we recovered, and now the decrease reduction was near 5.3, but still we need to have or to improve, because what we have seen is what we are decreasing and we are not adding more reserves. Really, where the gas is coming from, there are two major areas. We are talking about the Piedemonte area. Gas is coming from the Cordillera and Llanos, summarizes in this Llanos base in these Piedemonte fields. Basically 74% is coming from those fields. We have also production for the lower Magdalena Basin that produce something like the 12% of the gas, and we have from the Guajira offshore that produce 77% of the total gas that is being produced in the country. If we talk regarding the gas, the original gas in place, the ANH has reported 60 fields with have free and associated gas. Again, what we see is that the reserves are associated, or the gas in place are associated to the offshore Chuchupa and Ballena fields, the fields from the foothills that are the, sorry, I think the pointer is not working. The fields in the Piedemonte, we have Pauto, Cupiagua, Cusiana. We have a new pleasure also here that is La Loma in El Cesar. This is dry gas, but it's for an unconventional source from CBM called methane. Really summarizing what we have here is the 10 fields that have the most, the highest oil gas in place, that represent, those 10 represent like 80% of the TCFs or the gas in place in the area. Looking from other way, basically, as I said, I was talking about total gas that being produced in country. Those are coming from around 250 fields that produce gas free and associated gas. However, only 20% of those fields produce or commercialize the gas. In this chart, what we see is the fields that sell the gas or put the gas in the system that is being used. And in green, what we see are the pipelines or the national transportation system. The numbers over here are the towns where receive where the pipe is going, basically. What we see here also is from the total gas that we produce daily, more or less 40% is the one that is commercialized. What happened with the gas that is not put in the system? Well, partially we have to reinject in some fields to maintain the pressure, but also the companies have to put in a balance if they treat or because most of those gas have to be treated to be in condition to be in the system. Then not always is you have value because you don't have enough gas and the facilities and the treatment is too expensive. So you have to use for produce electrical energy, or we have also to consume for the field. And at the end of the day, so gas have to be burned. So what you see here is most of the gas coming from, or the gas coming from the foreland in the base, in the Llanos Basin, it doesn't go to the system, neither for the Putumayo or the Upper Magdalena Basin. talking about what has been done recently, the major players are, or the basin that had more activity regarding exploration for gas had been the lower Magdalena Basin in the upper part of the country, and the Eastern Cordillera Basin in the foothill areas. What we see here that the major players are Jocol, Canacol, we have a Paris, and we have also Lewis working with Jocol. What we see here is those fields over here are dry gas or wet with minor production of liquids. We have light hydrocarbon associated with gas, important amounts of gas, but also for the Eastern Cordillera Basin, we have also Paris working, have a discovery in the 2019 that from light oil with important amounts of gas. And also we have a new discovery coming from Ecopetrol that was announced recently. Let's see if I can move this one. Okay, then we are going now through the basin. We are presenting the basins. And the idea here is not do a detailed presentation of each basin, is just give you a flavor and to understand where the gas is coming from and what are the distribution of this gas and which reservoirs are the ones that produce the gas. Let's start with Guajira. Guajira was not included in this project because the gas is coming from this basin is coming from offshore, and this project is regarding to onshore basin. However, it's important to mention this basin because commercially this basin one of the most important basins during since the 70s basically. What we see here is the Guajira has two portions, one onshore area and one offshore, divided the onshore in the Alta Guajira and the Lower Guajira. The reservoir that is playing an important role here is Jimol, a Miocene calcareous reservoir that have a component of limestone in the Ballena field, and in Chuchupa is more sandstones. Basically, what we have seen here in this cross section is in the onshore area, we have deposit centers that are observed now in this Tayrona depression. What we see here, the structural configuration really are related, or the traps are related to faulted anticlines, and we have also sediments on lappings against the basement that are the important, the ones that we see in Ballena and Chuchupa. As I said, Guajira has been or play an important role for the production of the gas. Basically, the oil gas in place is being considered near 6.6 TCF, and already those two fields have produced 6 TCF. The fluid is dry gas, is still an important player, produce 11% of the total commercial gas in country. If we go to the Lower Magdalena Basin, the Lower Magdalena Basin is a transtensional triangular basin, is considered like that. But what you have here is divided. This basin is divided in the Plateau, subbasin and the San Jorge subbasin by the arc of the Magangue or the high of the Sicuco, really. What you have here in the configuration of the basin, we have some deposit centers filled with tertiary sediments that basically are, we have anticlines or monoclines that are affected by west reverse are normal faults. And also we have the onlapping to the basement. This basin was considered for many years a gas-prone basin. As I mentioned before, gas production has increased during the last year due to the successful exploration drilling. So in the reservoir point of view, what we have seen is a major, the Ciénaga de Oro sandstones is the main reservoir in the whole basin. This is a Oligocene-Miocene reservoir that is considered also the source in the area. Into the heights, basically in the El Difícil and Sicuco, what we have is a change of phases, and we have more limestones in those two areas. El Difícil historically had been one of the most important fields with production since 1941-43. What we see here is that the Ciénaga de Oro is the most important reservoir in the area, basically cumulative production from El Difícil, basically Nelson, that is located to the Guardesor, La Creciente, and Sicuco are almost 1 TCF. We have basically dry gas or wet gas in some cases, like in Nelson and in Breva, or in La that had produced, in La Creciente, that had produced also some liquids, but in general it's a dry gas. In La Belleza, we have liquids with light oil. El Difícil have changed in time. Basically, original was more behaves an oil reservoir with very light oils, API. Nowadays behave more like a gas field because have developed a gas cap. Also, we have fluids from El Sicuco, from Sicuco field. In the Sinu San Jacinto, we have a new player that is the formation of the, we have from production from Chengue and from Porquero. And in this case, we have fluids also being produced from these two formations. And this is a very important target nowadays. If we go to the Catatumbo Basin, Catatumbo is located southwest of the Maracaibo Basin. It's a foreland basin. And we have production, both liquids and dry gas. Dry gas, well, the configuration of the basin, we have different structural styles that created different type of tibú that is in this kind of structural configuration, echelon faults affected by thrust. Really, we have also, well, in very different kind of configuration. Reservoirs are from the Cretaceous, Albian, Aguardiente sandstones to La Luna formation that is the main source for Colombia and in general in this area. And this point is a calcareous reservoir that acts like a fracture reservoir, but also main production is coming for the tertiary reservoir that are siliciclastic, Catatumbo, Barco, that are from the Paleocene, and Mirador and Carbonera that are Eocene in time. Reserve, or sorry, gas oil in place has been associated to these 4 fields that produce dry gas from the Cretaceous. And basically those 4 fields have produced just near 74 BCF. Main production really is coming nowadays from the Mirador, the Mirador and Barco units that are located in this part. This is the only basin that is, or not the only, but it's a basin that is not connected with the national transportation system, and all the gas that is produced in Tibú, Sardinata, Rio Zulia, and Oripaya comes to the Cúcuta city to cover the requirement of this region. Basically, this field, this basin produced like 4 million cubic feet per day. Nowadays, the production is coming from Oripaya and Tibú, but historically, Tibú is the field that from Catatumbo that has produced more gas in the area. Now, let's go through the Middle Magdalena Basin. The Middle Magdalena Basin is an intramontane basin located in the central part of the country with very different, 5 different structural domains. This structural cross-section located in this part summarize in general the view of the basin. We have a more passive margin to the west with a more compressive zone to the east. In the northern part, we have this, basically this monocline deep into the east, and we have a normal faults affecting this monocline. Then toward the middle part of the basin, what we see, we start to see West Virgin thrust. We have a compressive style in this zone. The areas with more production gas are related to this area. And toward the south, we again see this monocline deepening to the east. In terms of reservoir, what we could see, basically we have production, minor production of gas coming from the Rosa Blanca limestone from the lower Cretaceous. The La Luna formation had been also an important player here recently, but we have also minor production nowadays and are from calcareous reservoirs, fractured calcareous reservoirs. Main production in the basin is associated gas coming from this tertiary fluvial reservoir of Lizama, Esmeraldas La Paz, Mugrosa, and Colorado. If we see the distribution of this one, only 3 fields or 3 or 4 fields have a dry gas in the area, as I mentioned, from the lower Cretaceous in this northern part with small reserves. We have also 1 field that is coming upon that nowadays is no longer producing from La Paz, that was dry gas. And we have production, this field, Guaduas, gas-associated gas, that part of the gas in place is related to Guaduas. Guaduas is no longer produced. It produced from the Cimarrona, that is equivalent in time to the upper Cretaceous reservoir. So what we see here is to the northern part, what we see is that the reservoir that produce are the Cretaceous and the Lizama and basically the Paleogene reservoirs. If we go through the medium part of the basin and toward the south, we have production from Mugrosa and Colorado. Those fields are basically black oil, all are black oils with medium API, and basically the GOR is less than 1,000 standard cubic feet per standard barrel in most of the fields, except in this area where we have the Payoa, La Cira, and Provincia fields that have produced for many years and have developed a gas cap in some cases. We have different kinds of fluids in this area that are heavy oils with low GOR, and in the southern part, still, this is a medium API oil, really with low GOR too. Basically, the fields that I had mentioned in this part of the basin have produced by themselves near 2 TCF of gas, and nowadays these fields produce more or less 4% of the commercial gas that is produced in the basin. If we go through the Cordillera Basin, is one of the most important. This Cordillera has been, was considered or is considered interpreted like an extensional basin during the Cretaceous and inverted during the Tertiary, and basically have different structural styles. What we see here in the central part, we have a central depression that is we find some tertiary sediments outcropping, and basically what we see is wide anticlines close or bordered by narrow anticlines affected by river falls, and in some cases also the anticlines are related to salt intrusions. Basically, to the border in this area, we see the fields like Bolivar and Corrales that are located in this kind of anticlines. To the flanks of the Cordillera, what we see is an inverted domain where we have a lower Cretaceous rocks outcropping in anticlines, or we have even the Jurassic and the Paleozoic rocks outcropping. And the most productive domain is what we call the Piedemonte or foothill domain, where we have a huge pile of tertiary sediments. And in this area, we have duplex with a triangular zone. We have imbricate, truss, structural, we have truss and fall, and we have subtruss transpressing structures. Basically, in this area are those fields that are the ones that produce more gas nowadays in country. We have Pauto, we have Cupiagua, we have Gibraltar in a duplex zone. We have also Cusiana, Cupiagua, Cusiana, even though it's considered part of the Llanos Basin, but all are part of the same train. The reservoir here, basically for those in the middle part of the Cordillera, we have the Guadalupe sandstone of the upper Cretaceous, And the ones that produce in the Piedemonte or foothills, what we have is again the sandstone of the Guadalupe, but the most important player here is the Mirador Eocene fluvial siliciclastic reservoir with an important that is Eocene, but also we have production from Parco and from Cuervos. These fields from this area produce, have a oil gas in place reported of 9.3. We have all kind of fluids in this basin. We have fluids that go from 18 to 27, 30 API with very low GOR. But in this area, what we have is a different reservoir. Basically is what we have here are volatile oil or gas condensate with the liquids have basically an API ranging from 43 to 57. The GOR for this area ranging from 13 to even 170,000 standard cubic feet per standard barrel. That's why we have the amount of gas that we see. What is possible to see is those reservoirs, most of them needs gas to be reinjected to keep the pressure of those reservoirs. So more or less 40% of the total production is going for reinjection, even though those fields only from Pauto and Corrales, we produce daily near 200 million cubic feet per day, representing the 20% of the production of the country. And if we put together Cusiana, Cupiagua, Floreña, and Capachos, I will talk from Capachos in a second, they produce more or less the 40% of the commercial gas nowadays. So this area is the most important area right now in country for gas production, and the new discovery from Ecopetrol is coming from this area too. So going through the llanos have different structural domains. It's a foreland basin, but this basin, this foothills domain is the same that we were talking just 2 seconds ago from the Cordillera. In this area, we have the Cusiana field. Cusiana is considered or have been considered a black oil, or really they have or volatile really. What we have there is a very light oil with a high GOR right now, basically ranging from 13 to almost 200,000 standard cubic feet per day. Needs a reinjection of gas to maintain the pressure because of the condition of the reservoir. And as I said, those in this area, also in this foothill, we have the Capachos toward the north, where the Pares have also the discovery of Andina Norte 1 with light oils, with very ranging in the order of 40 and important amounts of gas. And we have Medina to the south that is similar to those reservoirs. However, basically around 98 fields produce gas in the llanos, but most of the production is coming from these foothills. The other areas that we have here, we have the Arauca Graben, that is characterized by strike slip faults. We have thick Paleozoic, we have inverted structures and normal faults and drag faults too. In the Casanare, we see here the expression of the Casanare area. Basically, you have a monocline deep into the west. Structures are related to antithetic and locally to synthetic normal faults. Meta and Bichada, what we see here is small displacements of normal fault, extra slip faults, and dropping traps with thick Paleozoic too. From the fluid point and from the reservoir point of view, basically we have all the same that we have mentioned just before. We have the sandstone of the upper Cretaceous Guadalupe. We have also the Une, that is an Albian sandstones, and the tertiary that are Barco, Mirador, and Cuervos, basically that produce in this area. And we also have important production in this basin from Carbonera, Lower Carbonera in particular. Well, we will see really how is these reservoirs are distributed in this basin. What we see here is Lower Mirador Lower Carbonera, the distribution, and we have also here the Mirador formation. Fluids are quite different in this basin too. We have from heavy oils in this area to medium API in this area, but in particular, in general, the only area with a very high GOR or light oils are in the Piedemonte. This area all is a medium API with very low GOR, not really too much gas is being produced in this Forland basin. As I said before, 47% of the total gas that is being produced is reinjected to the foothills reservoirs. Now go through the Upper Magdalena Basin. Upper Magdalena Basin is an intramontane reservoir, basin, and is divided in two subbasins, the Girardot and the Neiva subbasin, divided by the Natagaima High. Basically, in this basin, we have structures related to troughs and subtroughs troughs and subtroughs anticlines, truncated anticlines by the Eocene and conformities. We have duplex systems, and we have inverted structure and stratigraphic traps. From the reservoir point of view, we have the important reservoir here are the sandstone of the Caballos that are Albion. We have the Monserrate, that is the equivalent of what we have been called Guadalupe in other basins. We have these upper Cretaceous sandstones, but we have also formation for the Miocene Onda, and from the, we have production also from the Oligocene from Doima and Chicoral. This basin has not really, is a typical black oil basin with low GOR, some fields, and basically the distribution is in green is Caballos, dark green is Caballos. We have a minor production from Tetuan. Tetuan is a part of the La Luna formation or the Villeta group that is a limestone, but it's minor production over here. We see in this part of the basin, and we have production from the tertiary in this part of the basin. As I said, no major gas production for the month that we put the commercial production. We don't have commercial production from this basin at that point, and most of the gas is using for consumption, electrical generation, and burn. If we go finally to the Caguán Putumayo is one basin, but really is divided by the Alto or the high of the Florencia and divided into sub-basin, the Caguán and the Putumayo, that both have very two different configuration in terms of the formation of the stratigraphy and in terms of the structuration. The gas is coming from the Putumayo subbasin. We see here the distribution of the units, and basically from the configuration of the traps, basically what we see is a dipping monocline also. What we have a soft anticlines with soft relief, sorry, north to south, with north to south direction in this central part. What we have, this is a foreland structuration, and we have in this to the western the foothill, where we have a truss structural or truss front with high angle reverse faults affecting or creating the structuration. Basically, the most important fields or the one that produce right now gas that is being sold is Orito, that have already produced something that 270 BCF. The problem with this, well, I have to mention that the reservoir here is Caballos, and we have production also from this Villeta group. As I mentioned before, there are some, between these calcareous units, we have intercalations of some calcareous sandstones that produce also liquids and gas. This is also a very typical black oil basin. The production, the commercial production is very low. And the most important, or the issue here is that this gas is come with, or have something like 70% of CO2 that is, basically is so expensive to treat this gas to put in the market. Just to summarize this first part, what we have here is that the configuration of the fields by the fluid type, and what we see here is the lower, the upper, the middle Magdalena, the upper Magdalena, and the Putumayo are classical black oils, as same as the Forlam in the Llanos. Basically, with what we produce here is associated gas. Free gas is coming basically from the lower Magdalena, lower Magdalena basin. We have also dry gas coming from the Catatumbo in small quantities coming from the La Luna formation. And we have also still the very important Chuchupa and Ballenas. Here we are presenting is just summarizing the fields that produce gas and the ones that commercialize. Basically are almost the same. And just to have in mind, Pauto in the Piedemontes or foothill zones is the one with the most production, following by Cupiagua of all those fields. And then we have the production from the Chuchupa and some fields here in the middle, in the lower Magdalena basin. Now I will answer questions if you have in the chat, and I stop sharing to give the Cesar to present the okay, sharing has stopped. Okay, to present.
Thank you, Clarita.
Ya te solté. You already have the presentation? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Clara. Good morning, everyone. Now we are going to talk about these 4 topics. Gas geochemistry, basin modeling, Playfair analysis, and jet to find. Before to start, I want, on behalf of the project group, I want to thank the ANH, especially our colleague Nelson Lizarazo, and also the Universidad Pedagógica y Tecnológica de Colombia. Here I want to thank my colleagues that were working on these points: Antonio Rangel, Luis Naranjo, Belén Silveira, Juan Guarín, and Claudia Posada. And finally, a special thanks to Carlos Julio Rodríguez. Okay. We are going to start with the gas geochemistry database. At the beginning of the project, we had just 60 samples, 60 gas samples in Colombia, really a few amount of geochemistry information. Then one of the main points for this project was to get new geochemical information. Here you can see in these points, in the green points, the distribution of the new information. We got 117 new samples. Now we have for the country 193. We know that it is not good enough, but it's a very important step in the exploration activity for gas in Colombia. The analytical process for this gas geochemistry include the general composition, gas chromatography for general composition of the gas, and also the isotopic composition for individual compounds from C1 to C5. With that methodology, it's possible to do a very, very huge approach of the prospectivity, and we can know too much about the processes, how this gas is coming into the traps in our basins. We are going to see just 4 examples. We don't have enough time to see every one of the basins. And we are going to start with the lower Magdalena Basin, which is located in the northern part of the country. In terms of the gas composition, we have at least 2 groups of gases there. We have these gases like El Difícil and Sicuco that are very wet. As you can see here, we have a lot of propane and butane. We have a lot of LPG in this kind of fields. And also we have this dry gas. This is very important. This is very important because in so many papers and so many jobs, we use the proposal that this is a biogenic gas, but now we have an alternative interpretation for that. We know now, especially for the last 15, 20 and 15 years, that we can have dry gas from a thermogenic process. That means this gas is coming from secondary cracking, and that cracking probably is coming from the source rock, from the oil that is retained in the source rock. In the upper part of this kind of slide, you are going to see the classical interpretation, the concentration of the methane and the isotopic composition of the methane. And here you are going to see the alternative interpretation. This is really new in terms of the global exploration. This has just 20 years, and this kind of methodology of interpretation was developed by Basin in France, the Pernaton and Prinzhofer group. And according to this interpretation, we can understand some things and or to have some very important conclusions for the exploration, for the gas exploration activities. As you can see here in a field like Wepagé or Nelson, even having a dry gas, you know that because of the concentration, the relationship between C2 and C3 and their isotopic composition, we can interpret this as secondary cracking processes. And another very important point for some of these fields, we have so many in Colombia, or we have many in Colombia, is that in some cases, like in Nelson, we have production of liquid hydrocarbon. We have production of condensate. And that's is the proof that we are in a thermogenic petroleum system. In general, we believe that now we have a very strong alternative interpretation model for this kind of dry gas, thermogenic gas. In terms of petroleum system modeling, we do 1D and 3D. We use a lot of information coming from the project that the ANH have been developing during the last 5 years. And I'm going to show you this an example for every one of these 4 basins. Here you can see for the Plateau Deposit that the Eocene source rock intervals reach the early generation window, early gas window. You can see the level of bituminite reflectance according to the modeling. And also you can see that we have a very high transformation rate. Another important result of this modeling is that, as you can see here, for this kind of source rock that were defined with a lot of, with very good information, this is an oil-prone basin where we have the main product is liquid, is oil, and also we have this gas that is related with the oil window and early gas window. Another important product in this project, we believe that this is the first time that when we have a pot active of source rock for the basins in Colombia with hydrocarbon commercial production. Here you can see in red the gas window, and in green, the oil window for all these basins. And again, this information is coming not just for this project, but also including all the results of the projects that the ANH did in the last 5 years. For the lower MAC, you can see here the productive of source rock, including gas window and oil window for the Eocene source rock intervals, and also here for the Oligocene one. For the plateau, for this San Jorge Subbasin, also we have that definition using 3D modeling. And we are including this productive of source rock in San Jacinto Subbasin, because here in this area we have a problem. We can calibrate the model because the maturity level of the source rock, the hypothetical source rock for San Jorge Basin is low. It's lower than the maturity level we can see in the gas. It's not possible to have secondary cracking according to this maturity level. That then an alternative way to explain this gas is to connect this area with the CNO productive of source rock. When you see the structural modeling that were did, for example, for Universidad de Caldas by the Miocene or during the Miocene, these two areas were connected, structurally connected, and then it's possible to have that option in order to understand why we have this kind of higher maturity level in the gas. Now we are going to Middle Magdalena Basin, located in the central part and intramontane basin. You can see here also we have in general, here we have wet gas for most of these, but we have an special area, especially in the foothills. We have gas with a very, very high concentration or C2+. We have, as you can see here, we have a lot of propane and butane, which is very important for LPG business, no? And also we know that all this gas is related with the oil. We have in some areas small amounts, so smaller amounts of C2+, but anyway, as you can see here, we have both processes here. We have primary cracking for for an important number of samples. This means this gas is coming directly for the kerogen. And also we have a secondary cracking coming from the oil that is retained in the source rock. We have both. And again, here in a case like Accordionero, we have the evidence here that this is a thermogenic process because we have oil there. That is not possible to have that oil from biogenic processes. For this basin, we have a higher maturity level. You can see here that the source rock intervals reach almost the early gas generation, a very high transformation ratio with young hydrocarbon processes, expulsion processes, and again, we have a source rock where the main hydrocarbon is oil, but we have the gas on that processes. And finally, for this basin, we have the mapping of the productive of source rock. We have one for the La Luna formation, where we can see a gas window and oil window. And for the Turonian source, for the Albian-Aptian source rock, Tablazo formation, we have this gas window in most of the area. This mapping is very important because now we had a better option to apply these results for the jet-to-fine analysis. We had a better definition of the productive of source rock. Now we are going to Llanos Orientales. In this basin, we have, here you can see this, we have a lot of wet gas. You can see the percentage of the methane is going down in so many of these fields. And also you can see that 99% of the samples correlate with primary cracking, are coming from the kerogen, are migrating with the oil. And here we have different examples of these gases with someone like Corcel and Redondo, where the amount of propane and butane is huge, really huge. We here in Redondo, for example, you have just 35% of methane. In terms of the maturity level and basin modeling, you can see a lower maturity level coming from the foothills area, but this match very good with the gas, with the quality and the maturity level we define in the gas. We can use that gas in order to calibrate the model using another information like vitrinic reflectance. We don't have the transformation ratio is lower than the other basins, that the transformation ratio we saw, for example, in Middle Mac. And again, we have a soft rock intervals where the main hydrocarbon is oil, but as usual, we have gas related with this oil. For this basin, we have the possibility to map the productive of soft rock, one for the Fomeke formation. We know Fomeke formation is a soft rock here with contribution because of the quality, because of the geochemistry of the oils. We have also this productive of soft rock for Chipake and Gacheta formation, an additional one that I don't have here for the Paleocene soft rock intervals. Again, because of the oil geochemistry, we know that we have contributions for tertiary soft rock intervals. And finally, I want to show this for Guajira offshore. This basin was outside of the project, but anyway, we include some things. And here I want to compare the Chuchupa and Ballena gas with the Nelson gas. They are very, very similar. They are very, very 97, 98% of methane with a very light isotopic composition. These samples are coming from secondary cracking. That's the alternative interpretation. And in both cases, we have condensate. We have condensate in Nelson, and also we have condensate in Chuchupa Ballena. Then we believe this is very important, and this has a very strong implication, exploratory implication for Guajira offshore. Then we go to the Playfair Fairway analysis. We define 22 Playfair ways. You can see in the report all the detail for everyone. We have the basin, we have the Playfair way, we have the fields includes or related with that area, and we have the main reservoirs and additional information there. For every one of these, we have a prediction of the type of gas we can have, and you are going to have a detail for every one of the basins. You can see here these Playfair ways related with this area between Sinu San Jacinto and Lower Mac. You can see this central and northern part of the Middle Mac with at least 3 Playfair ways. Also, we have this in the Catatumbo. We have this huge area in the Casanare. We have the foothills. Very important, the Arauca area, and even in the southern part related with Castilla, Chichimenia, and Apiay area, we believe we have a very good chance to get commercial production, gas commercial production. And also we have an additional Playfair ways for Upper Mac, for Cordillera, and for Putumayo subbasin. This is an example of the detail we have for one basin. This is Middle Mac. Here we can see 4 Playfair ways. We define this combining different information, geological model, reservoir model, geochemistry characterization. Obviously, we are using everything of this. We are using gas in place, production, and we are. This is our proposal for these 4 areas. And we have. I was talking to the northern area, the foothills, the central part, and this, which is important in the southern part of the basin, including the Guaduas field and the Toki and Totare area. In the report, you are going to have all that detail for every one of the basin and for every one of the Playfair. Then we did a yet to find estimation with development a methodology. We believe that this is the first time we apply this kind of methodology. We know that in the future we are going to improve the approach. It's not easy to get a methodology to separate gas and oil. We had to study a lot, but we believe that we have a good approach where we can separate that. And the summary for this yet to find is this. This is the discovery original gas in place in Colombia. We are not including Chuchupa and Ballena. This is just for onshore basins, the basin that were included in the project. And we are very close to 20 TCF. That's the gas, the oil in place that has the ANH in his report. Most of this is related with oil. Most of this is and you know that the main production is coming from Llanos foothills, which is related with oil. And this is the prospective resource we calculate using this methodology. The detail of the methodology you are going to find in the report. And this is the amount we got, 29, almost 29 TCF. That means we have a very good opportunity to double this, almost to double out 1.5. Maybe we can multiply for 1.5 the gas already discovered in the country. This is a very important resource, and we believe that the most important point with this resource is that will be located in the areas where we found the oil or the gas. We have infrastructure, we have all the knowledge, we have a lot of information, but we need to improve the exploratory projects related directly with gas, because most of these discoveries were related with oil. At the beginning, the exploration companies were looking for oil. And at the beginning, to find gas was a bad news for them. Now we are happy with the gas, but 30 years ago, 50 years ago, that was bad news. And then we believe that there is an important, there are an important prospective resource that could be found very, very close to the areas where we have production today. Finally, we did a prospectivity ranking using different approach. And here you can see the first one is using the gas production that is supervised by the ANH. And here you can see that the Cusiana and Cupiagua area, the foothills in Cordillera is the most important. Then you have Lower Mac, which is going up especially because the activities of companies like Hocol, like Canacol, during the last 10 years. Then we have Middle Mac, Llanos, Orientales, Upper Mac, Caguán, Putumayo, Cordillera, and finally Catatumbo. Another option is to do this ranking using the original oil in place, the discovered one. Again, here we have foothills, but and then we have lower and middle Mac. But we have some changes here. That means in some of these basins, we have GOES, we have gas in place, but we don't have too much production. And finally, we include this ranking using the yet to find, the prospective reserves in terms of TCF. And here, the most important basin, according to this analysis, is Middle Mac. Which is important. It's important because in Middle Mac, probably we have a very good option to increase the exploration activities for the gas target. Okay, that's all I have. And I believe Clara has additional information to share with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Just to let me go through again to the presentation. There were a couple of questions, Cesar, in particular one from, I think was Alejandro Mora, that asked regarding the Chuchupa Ballena that you mentioned, that we have some oil in this. Before I go to wrap up the presentation, do you want to answer that?
I think I can use the chat, especially because of the time, Clara.
Okay, perfect. So just to complete this presentation, basically, well, Cesar mentioned really that the conclusion is that we have defined 22 different Playfair, Fairway paths that have been really giving a new scenarios for exploration. From those corridors, we put in the land map to see how those matches with the current areas that are available, or which companies could have the chances to see more opportunities in their own areas. Basically, the second conclusion that Cesar mentioned was the most important is the amount of the resources that could be added, that are in the order of 29 TCF in the onshore. And according to the last ranking, the areas with most prospectivity is not just free gas, it's also associated gas, could be related to, depending on the ranking. We have options for the Middle Magdalena, important option for the Middle Magdalena Basin. For Cordillera, not necessarily the foothill. Cordillera has a very interesting port, and basically the foothill from the Cordillera area too. Just briefly go through the different basins. Here we are seeing the lower Magdalena. Basically, with some of the areas have already taken, but we have some opportunities to recheck or to see how it works with the exploration. Basically, what we see really is interesting areas in this Monpos area, for example. For Middle Magdalena Basin, as Cesar said, are located more toward the northern part of the basin, and so here in what we call the lower domain in the Cordillera, or domain 5. For the Upper Magdalena, Upper Magdalena is quite interesting because even we have production in most of in the basin, the reserves are not so high, and as much as I could see also, we have something like 2 TCF that could be bringing from this basin. We have from the Llanos. Llanos is more the balance to put those reserves or the target to try to bring those reserves to the system and to produce them. And then we have the Intercordillera. This northern part is quite interesting. And basically this area in the central part of the Cordillera. So Catatumbo is also has an historical production for production, but it's important to increase the reserve in this area. And for Putumayo, basically also the areas where we have production, well, there are some areas that could be interesting to look for gas associated. Finally, thank you to all the people that participate, and we are open to receive questions and try to have any comment that you have for the presentation. Thank you very much to the NH and to all the audience.
Thank you, Clara. I think we got 10 minutes for questions. There are many. I have seen most of the questions have been already been answered. I think we can go back to a question by Herman Reino that I don't know if you already answered it. It says that the Middle Cauca Valley, about from Cali City to La Pintada town, could be a prospective basin for onshore gas.
Daniel, I put some answers,
okay.
but we believe that we have option there. We have opportunity for gas there, and we know there is gas there. Wasn't included in the project this area because the target was the basins with the hydrocarbon commercial production. But we know there is an option for gas there.
Okay. We got a last question because the one from Alejandro Mora has been already answered. We got the last one that says from Jorge Toro Rolava. Dear Cesar, nice to listen to you again. In your last slide, you ranked basins depending on GOES, the TPC. Question, why the Cordillera and the Caguán Putumayo have near to zero TPC, while the production are around 1,900 to 4,500 millions of cubic feet? Are Cordillera and Putumayo not prospective for more gas?
No, really. We know that these areas are prospective, especially in Cordillera. We know there are options to find additional gas. The amount of prospective resource we define in the yet to find assessment are related with the general petroleum system distribution and with the methodology we use, but the amount is small compared with the other basins, but we know there are a potential. And also, I was talking that this is the first time we apply this approach, and then we are sure, we know that we are going to change all these results using new information, using the information the ANH will be get or the companies will get in the future, will get, excuse me, in the future. And I would like to say something about Chuchupa y Ballena. Alejandro was asking about that. I believe that Victor Ramirez is here. He has been working a lot from the last 20 years with this information, and we knew 20 years ago about that condensate in Chuchupa and Ballena. It's a very small amount, but they use the condensate. There are a small company that use that condensate for industrial processes. And 15 years ago, Antonio Rangel in the ICP was in the field. They got the samples and they did analytical study for that condensate. But that information is in Ecopetrol. It's not free information. But we know we have there that condensate. And if you talk with people that were working last century in the production activities in Chuchupa Ballena, they really knew the condensate. And that condensate was small, but was a problem for Texaco. Was a problem, but they had to do something with that liquid. Okay, that's all.
We got a last question by Alejandro. He said, thank you, Clarita and Cesar, for the excellent presentation, and that he found particularly interesting the proposal of a pot of active source rock into the Sinú San Jacinto for the San Jorge deposit. He guesses that we will have to do a 2D model connecting the Sinú San Jacinto with San Jorge to try to support that proposal. What do you think about it, Clara or Cesar?
I think that's very good idea. We can do that. Probably that will be the only way to explain the gas we have in Jobo-Tablón area, the original area, and also in Sinú, because all the information we have from the San Jorge deposit shows that we don't have enough maturity level to explain gas coming from a secondary cracking. We don't have the option to explain the condensate. The maturity level for that deposit is just early generation, oil window in early generation level. Then, Alejandro, that will be very good. That will be a very good idea to do that model, and will be better if you publish the results as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Cesar. We got a last comment by Victor Ramirez. He comments that a well into the Ballena area got reports about most of the gallons of hydrocarbons, liquid hydrocarbons that have been produced in there. He said that obviously the quantities are quite small, but there are indications of maybe the source potential. So from the ANH, I would like to thank to all of the attendees that we have today, and of course to Clara and Cesar for the magnificent presentation and the summary of all of the potential into the gas onshore that we got into the whole country. So thank you very much, and remind to all of you that all of these presentations will be available at the webpage of the ANH, and see you next week into March 18th with the Geological Service Workshop number 7 of new findings of petroleum exploration into the Paleozoic. That is an interest for the whole industry into the Llanos Basin. So thank you very much to all of you. See you next
Daniel,
week.
before closing, sorry,
okay.
to interview. Give 2 seconds for the last comment and then the list. Basically, I want to a special thank you to all the companies, 18 in total, that led us to go to the fields in a very efficient and easy way to really sample the fields. Were 117 samples that we took, and really thank you all the companies that collaborate to be possible this project.
Okay, Clara, thank you for that, and thank you for all the companies that had to at the moment.